Hey guys, welcome to yet another fantastic episode here at Kaluhi'S kitchen. I hope you are very excited about this episode because 100% I am. I ran a poll on my Instagram stories a few weeks back asking you guys which cake I should make for the week heading to Valentine's weekend, and you guys said red velvet. Red velvet really gets a bad rep in this country, mostly because people just make a dry red ass cake and call it red velvet. But today we're going to make a legit red velvet cake and you guys are going to fall in love with it. And after this episode, you too are going to learn how to make a real red velvet right at home. To my returning subscribers, asanteni sana for being here. I love engaging with you guys. And to my new watchers, I 100% know after this video I'm going to earn your subscription. That said guys, let's begin. Karibuni. We've just now divided the ingredients according to the stage at which we're going to introduce it into the recipe. But before we get into it, let's first talk about what a red velvet actually is, because to be quite honest with you guys, I also didn't quite get the hype until Anita told me on Twitter that actually a red velvet is a chocolate cake that has a red hue. No, you can hit actually it's not actually real red velvet. And then I went into research, so let me break it down for you. A red velvet is a red chocolate cake that is moist, that is velvety, hence the name, and it also has a slight cocoa taste as a result of using cocoa in the recipe. So if you buy a cake that is just plain cake with a red tint but with the texture of a mattress, that is not red velvet because it does not have cocoa and it is not velvety and buttery. So let's go through it one final time. What is a red velvet? It needs to have the taste of chocolate. It needs to have slight bitter notes because of the cocoa. It needs to be buttery, and yes, it has a red hue. So if your cake just has a red hue but it's not buttery and it's not chocolatey, it's not a red velvet. That's how you make the distinction. So for the first ingredients we're going to work with, I have my flour, my cocoa, salt, and some baking powder. Baking powder, of course, will be the leavening agent for this cake and will allow our cake to rise and become really airy. This is about 3 cups of flour, but don't fret, the exact ingredients will be listed on the blog. And with baking, remember, you can't guess around. You have to be very precise, very specific, so you will need the exact quantities that I have listed on the blog. That said, we're going to add our flour onto our sieve, followed by our cocoa, our salt, and our baking powder, and then we're going to sieve this together. This is now perfectly combined, and with that done, we're going to set this aside and then bring to the forefront another bowl. With baking tunatumianga vyombo more, but guys, tuvumilie tu. And to this bowl, we're going to add some sugar and some butter. The butter needs to be at room temperature. Actually, every single ingredient you use for this recipe, just ensure they are at room temperature. Reason being, they just combine better when they are at the same temperature, and also any temperature difference may give you a different result at the end. So just make sure everything is at room temperature. For this recipe as well, we're using both butter and oil. Butter adds a nice, rich, creamy flavor to the cake we're going to have at the end. Oil ensures the cake is very, very moist. So we are using both so that we make the most of the benefits those 2 ingredients add. That said, we're going to add sugar onto this bowl, add in our butter, and then mix it until combined and creamy. Perfect. Now we whisk these 2 together for about a minute or so. It doesn't take long to combine, especially because the butter is at room temperature. So now we're going to go into the bowl that has our creamy, buttery sugar and butter mixture. We're going to add another 4 sets of ingredients, and for that we're going to add in our oil, followed by our egg yolks, vanilla extract, and then our vinegar. We are now done with combining majority of our wet ingredients, and this looks totally beautiful. And you also have to make sure once you do this at home that once you mix everything, there are no lumps, there are no sugar granules. Everything should be nice, creamy and buttery, as you can see mine is. Now we're going to set this aside, grab yet another bowl. Anyway, and then in this bowl we're going to add our egg whites. We're going to pour in our egg whites and proceed to whisk for about 3 to 5 minutes until stiff peaks form. We're now done whisking our egg whites, and as you can see, they're so pretty and they look like a cloud. They're so light and airy as well. And once you do this at home, make sure you get that exact consistency as well. Now that that is done, we are going to bring everything ahead at the forefront at your head, and then we're going to combine everything. And this is such a delight to see because we started with a forest of ingredients and now we're remaining with only 5 bowls, and that makes me happy because it means we are making good progress. So for the next step, we're going to pour in the buttery mixture into the bowl that has our dry ingredients, alternating that with the mala and then mixing it pole pole with the mwiko. If you have a stand mixer, just alternate the additions but let the stand mixer do the mixing for you. But if you have just a mwiko like I do, it's still perfectly fine. Once that is all in and just mixed in, we're going to add our red coloring agent and then mix it in. And then finally we're going to add our egg white mixture, and then we'll be done, and then we'll proceed to bake. Mala is fermented milk, and to my foreign watchers, depending on where you reside in the world, you can use either buttermilk, kefir or amasi. Everything is now combined. We are now at the home stretch, and I'm so in love with the deep ruby color my butter has obtained. Isn't it so pretty? As you can see, once you're done combining everything, the consistency of your butter will be really silky and creamy, but slightly thick as well. This is the consistency you too should get at home. With regard to food color, you can get it in any well-stocked supermarket. They are also pretty cheap as well. When you're adding it to your batter, just add a little bit at a time, mix it in, then adjust upwards depending on the intensity of red you want your cake to hold. Now that this is done, it's pretty, it's silky, it's perfect, and I'm excited about baking it. We're now just going to divide it into our 2 baking pans. These pans are 10-inch wide. You can get them in any well-stocked supermarket. So to prepare my pans, I simply just greased the bottom and the sides as well. Then only on the bottom I added parchment paper. Then over it I also added some more butter, and then I dusted some flour over it, and then with that my pans were ready. It's very important that you prepare your pans because it allows the cake for easy release once they're done baking. Now that that is done, we're going to divide the butter into our pans and then pop them into our oven that is already preheating at 170, and then we'll continue from there. Guys, this has gone a lot smoother than I had imagined it to be, and that makes me very happy. As you can see behind me, my cakes are already baked. They're now cooling, and it is very paramount that you ensure your cakes are 1000% cooled down before you go ahead with the frosting process. If you frost a warm cake, the frosting will melt and you'll have a disaster, and we do not want disasters. Speaking of the frosting, for this particular cake I decided to go with a cream cheese cheese frosting. It's very delicious and I feel it goes very well with a red velvet. Very simple to make. As you can see, I have already made mine and it's very delicious. I already tasted it. It's nice and creamy and silky, and I know it will complement the flavor of our red velvet to perfection. It's very simple to make, and here's how I made mine. Grab a bowl and add your cream cheese and your butter. Whisk these two together until creamy and silky. Add your icing sugar and your vanilla extract and give it another whisk and you will be done. Very simple to make, as you have seen for yourself, and once you're done mixing everything, just give it a taste test. If you need to adjust the sweetness upwards, because we all like different degrees of sweetness, do so at this stage. For me, the quantities I added for this frosting are listed on the blog, link on the description box, so just use those as a blueprint, but if you need to adjust upwards, feel free to do so. So my frosting is ready. We're just going to let this sit in my fridge for a couple of hours. Then once my cake is completely cooled down, we're going to come back here, assemble, and then we'll be done. Guys, I'm so happy we are done, and as you can see right in front of you, the most beautiful red velvet cake you will ever lay your hands on. And you've seen for yourself, it's extremely easy to bake a red velvet right at home, and it's very easy to achieve these excellent flavors of a legitimate red velvet right at home. This looks really pretty. I'm yet to take photos, so I won't slice it right here right now, but when I do, I'm going to describe the flavor on the blog, and you guys really have to read up because I know this is going to be epic. Last thing before I conclude, let's just revise what I said at the very beginning. A real red velvet cake is actually a red chocolate cake. It needs to taste like chocolate, it needs to be moist, it needs to be buttery, and this fits the bill. If someone serves you a dry red cake, mwambie tu I Angelica Z, Kaluhi alisema red velvet lazima taste kama chocolate na lazima pia ikuwe moist. Mwambie tu ukweli. Because this is a baking recipe, remember you need the exact recipe quantities followed to the letter, and because of that I have detailed everything on my blog so that you too can ace this right at home. The recipe quantities are on my blog, link on the description box. Try this out, and once you do, tag me on any and every social media platform because it is my life duty to show you off. For me, it's now time to go take final photos for the blog, upload this recipe, and then rest and enjoy this cake with my family. See you on my next video, guys. Kwaherini.